Hello, friends. My name is Clayton Tuttle. I'm an amateur artist and graphic designer, and I'm here today to talk to you about the power and history of art.
Art. It's all around us. From billboards and IKEA manuals to park benches and public transportation, the principles of art and design inform almost every aspect of our modern world. Even if your knowledge of classic Renaissance painters begins and ends with the names of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, there's a good chance that art has positively affected your life in one way or another. Art is almost as old as humanity itself. From cave paintings to the Mona Lisa to Andy Warhol and his Campbell's soup cans, the history of art and design provides us with a roadmap to our own history. But despite our intimate relationship with art, the answer to one simple question continues to be debated, even to this day. What exactly is art? How do you define something that seems to mean something different to so many different people around the world? And perhaps more importantly, what does it mean to actually create art? To answer that question, perhaps it would be beneficial to talk about the history of art and how it relates to our own. Some of the oldest known examples of human-produced art come from cave paintings, the oldest of which are well over 40,000 years old. These prehistoric artists used pigments derived from common minerals to depict the things they saw around them: cattle, bison, big cats, birds, bears, maybe a rhinoceros or two, and of course, themselves. Fast forward a few thousand years, and things started to get a bit more complex. The ancient Egyptians started using hieroglyphic writing composed of hundreds of drawn symbols around 3000 BC. A hieroglyph can represent a word, a sound, or an idea, and the Egyptians used this newfound art form to explore such complex ideas as life, death, and immortality. A few hundred years later, on the other side of the Mediterranean Sea, the ancient Greeks began using paintings and sculptures to refine and further their understanding of the human form. Then, beginning in the mid-1400s, artists of the Italian Renaissance, such as Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo, began to combine classical artistic foundations with contemporary advancements in the realms of science, philosophy, music, and literature to transform our understanding of what art could accomplish. This eventually gave way to the Impressionist movement of the late 1800s. Impressionist painters embraced the notion of art as impression, which left them free to render their subjects wholly through light and color rather than realistic forms. The Impressionist movement paved the way for experimentation in art, which would both directly and indirectly lead into the anything-goes freedom of the modern art era we still enjoy today.
So as you can see, art has been with us almost since the very beginning. And as a result, the definition of what we consider to be art has evolved over time to encompass a wide variety of mediums, genres, and techniques. But the one thing they all have in common is that they have the power to teach us something about ourselves.
According to University of Oslo psychology professor Stein Vogt, practicing a visual art can even teach you different ways of seeing the world. In a study for Perception Science Journal, she asked 9 psychology students and 9 art students to view a series of 16 pictures while a camera and a computer monitored where their gazes fell. She found that artist eyes tended to scan the whole picture, including apparently empty spaces, such as ocean and sky, while the psychology students tended to focus in on objects, especially people. Non-artists spent about 40% of the time looking at these objects, while artists focused on them only about 20% of the time. This finding suggests that while non-artists were busy turning images into concepts, artists were taking note of colors and contours. While most people tend to process visual information as a series of abstract icons and symbols, Vogt concludes artists instead see the world as the mass of shapes, colors, and forms that it really is. But perhaps one of the greatest lessons that art can teach us is patience. Regardless of your chosen medium, all art requires trial, error, and experimentation. As the late Bob Ross once said, talent is a pursued interest. Anything that you're willing to practice, you can do. And in art, as in life, sometimes the biggest mistakes can lead to the most surprising and satisfying results. But patience isn't the only virtue that art can teach us. The act of practicing creativity can have real-world health benefits, both physical and psychological as well. A 2010 study by the American Public Health Association found that engagement with creative activities has the potential to contribute toward reducing stress and depression, and can have a salient impact on important physiological parameters as well. In short, practicing an art form can not only relieve emotional stress, but it can have a positive impact on your physical health as well.
So, after all is said and done, how do we define art? Can anyone create art? Or is true art something that is reserved exclusively to the realm of the masters? Can a doodle in the margins of your notebook count as art? Or does a work have to exhibit a mastery of artistic craft and skill to count? The answer to all these questions is yes. Art is all of these things and more. Art is about communication. It's an expression of imagination. It's taking something from inside yourself, an idea or an emotion, and channeling a physical embodiment of that thing out into the world for everyone to see and enjoy. Art is anything that makes us feel. And perhaps the most important emotion that art can teach us about is joy. The joy we feel when we create it and when we share it with people around us. Thank you.